name is Miguel Hernandez-Bronchud. In the year 2011, Hamilton House Publishing produced two of my ebooks, of which I would like to draw to your attention. From Stones to God is really an invitation to travel. Anybody interested in medieval arts, the Knights Templar and the history of England and Europe will find it an invaluable asset in planning a fascinating series of cultural holiday trips where time is added as a fourth dimension. In Europe, we're fortunate enough to be able to travel in the past and watch with our own eyes some of the most beautiful buildings erected some 1000 years ago to honor divinity. This book is about stonecutters and builders in the Middle Ages in Europe. The introductory chapter covers medieval building techniques, together with a bird's-eye view and panoramic description of the earliest and, to our eyes, the most beautiful of English cathedrals. In the following chapters, I then approach and present two little-known medieval characters and finally examine the architectural genius of Antoni Gaudi, best known for his masterpiece, the Cathedral of La Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. The first of our characters, Reinard de Fonoll, was an English stonecutter and mast builder who travelled from England to Spain in the early 14th century to bring the joy of the English flamigerous Gothic style to the ancient kingdom of Aragon. He could have been the model for one or several of the characters in Ken Follett's acclaimed book, The Pillars of the Earth. Born in the late 1200s, he is currently thought to have been involved in the decoration of either of, or even both, Wells and Oxford cathedrals. Reinard de Fonoll was invited by the Catalan king Jaume II of Aragon in about 1325 or 1326, where he worked on several monastic and royal buildings, such as the Cistercian monastery of Santes Creus, the cathedrals of Tarragona and Lleida, as well as the churches of Montblanc and Morella, and possibly Santa Coloma de Queralt. Des Fonoll may have also been the secret builder of the monastery palace of Petra Alba, now called Pedralbes, on the hills of Barcelona. This wonderful building was finished in just over 1 year, and only an expert master builder could have completed it so fast in those days, even with the help of hundreds of stonemasons. The cloister of Santes Creus, like that of the monastery of Poblet, provides two beautiful examples of Cistercian monastic buildings whose decoration by Des Fonoll was an inspiration to the young modern architect Antoni Gaudi, born in the small city of Reus near Tarragona some 700 years after these buildings were built. It was in Spain and Portugal that the Christians truly won their crusade. Jerusalem had been taken in the first crusade, then lost to Saladin just about 100 years later. Only Spain and Portugal were truly reconquered from Islam, in great part thanks to the military and religious orders, the soldier monks, such as the Knights Templar and their brethren, and to some extent substitutes, the Knights of St. John of Jerusalem, also called the Hospitales. Templar, I move on to review in the book another extraordinary medieval historical character, the Aragonese Don Juan Fernández de Heredia, born around 1306 and who lived to an old age until 1396. The first reference to the historical character comes around 1328 from the Knight Templar castle of Alfambra, then already under the rule of the Knights of St. John of Jerusalem, today called the Knights of Malta. This Templar castle of Alfambra was close to Teruel, is now in ruins, and is very close to the little village of Camañas. I have spent some 20 years researching this impressive man, Don Juan Fernández de Heredia, who was a soldier, a diplomat, a writer, and the patron of masons not only in Spain, but also in France, Rhodes, Rome, and elsewhere. His origins are obscure, as his mother was not documented and his exact date of birth and birthplace are unclear. While very young in Teruel, castles of Alfambra and Villel, he lived with some Knight Templars who had been accepted in the Knights of St. John order and became a Knight of St. John himself, rather unusual for an illegitimate son of a probable Aragonese nobleman. As Knight of St. John, he took part in the so-called 100 Years' War, a series of military campaigns waged between 1337 and 1453 between the kingdoms of England and France and their various allies, not only for control of the French throne, but also the vast lands and possessions of the English kings in France, which in those days included Normandy, Anjou, Gascogne and Aquitaine. Don Juan was twice taken prisoner by the English King Edward III and twice freed by this generous king. The second time he was captured, he apparently saved the life of the French king himself, Philip VI, at the Battle of Crécy in 1346. This battle was a complete disaster for the French and a great victory for the English, and our Aragonese Knight of St. John was taken to London as a prisoner. It is of considerable interest to us that he was helped by unknown friends in London to regain his freedom, and his coat of arms, with its 3 characteristic castles, somehow appears in 1356 in the coat of arms of the London Guild of Masons, now referred to as the Masons' Company. The company, one of the City of London's oldest livery companies, with records dating back to 1356, was formed to safeguard the welfare of its members, who were operative English masons, and to regulate the craft of stonemasonry to maintain its proper standards. Because Don Juan had developed very close ties with operative masons in Spain and France, directing and financing the buildings of several castles and the city walls of Avignon, then under papal rule, and later part of the city walls of Rome and Rhodes, it is quite possible they had good Masonic friends everywhere. Stonecutters and builders enjoyed the unusual privilege of the freedom to move around the various kingdoms of Europe, probably why they've come down to us as Freemasons. Even more intriguing is the finding of a winding staircase with special Masonic marks at the castle of Mora de Rubielos near Teruel, which Don Juan bought and partly rebuilt for his only illegitimate son on the way to Teruel from Valencia. The 36 steps, each with 1 mark on its vertical face, with the exception of the first 3 and the very last one. This beautiful winding staircase goes down from the castle chapel at ground level in Mora de Rubielos, 3 floors down to a temple, where on the eastern wall can be seen a large equilateral triangle with its apex meets zinc, approximately 3 square meters in size and unmistakably Masonic. This is the most intriguing find, for which no clear explanation has ever been given. It is possible that it represents evidence of speculative rituals practiced by at least some operative masons of those days, and their employers, the Knights Templar, and their successors, the Knights of St. John. Don Juan Fernández de Heredia eventually became advisor to several Aragonese kings, as well as to 3 popes during the time of the Avignon papacy, or Babylonian captivity, of the Catholic Church. He was appointed Grand Master of the Order of St. John of Jerusalem, then in Rhodes, now called the Knights of Malta, and lived long enough also to serve 2 anti-popes at the time of the schism of the Catholic Church, which almost sundered it. Pope Benedict XIII, also Aragonese, died in the castle of Peñíscola, formerly a Knights Templar castle, several years after his mentor Don Juan Fernández de Heredia had died peacefully. Finally, my book From Stones to God examines the life and works of Antoni Gaudi, born in 1852, died in 1926. who revolutionized modern architecture with his naturalist and highly imaginative modernist buildings, and his still unfinished Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, probably the last cathedral ever to be built in the world, and recently consecrated by Pope Benedict XVI. If we ask ourselves what these three great characters, Reinard Fonoll, Don Juan Fernández de Heredia, and Antoni Gaudi, really had in common, besides their magic relationship with stones and building, the answer must be God. They all share a deep belief in God and His Son Jesus Christ, just as people of every station, rich or poor, French, English or Aragonese, did for almost 2000 years.